Hey, Chase the Recom Actual. Here today to ask a very important question. Who needs Salomon boots from US Elite Gear and who doesn't? Let's dig in. So when asking the question, who needs gear and who doesn't, what you really need to dig into is two main points. What is the gear made to do, performance metrics of the product, and what do you need in your life? So let's start with the boots. So the line of boots that US Elite Gear carries from Salomon is the Forces line. Now, as the name indicates, these are made with a military or law enforcement customer in mind that have a fairly specific group of requirements or mission sets that they are taking on, and these boots are made to fill those roles. So what are those mission sets? What are those roles? Well, they're going to be operating for long periods of time in rough terrain, austere environments, encountering a wide variety of different environmental conditions, as well as certain chemical conditions, and finally, a variety of actual surfaces that the boot's going to come in contact with. So what does all that mean? Well, you could see anything from operating in the mountains of Afghanistan to doing shipboarding operations where you're working on wet, slippery decking material, that kind of stuff, all the way to law enforcement raids where you may be going into a house with a number of unknown substances on the floor, a variety of flooring conditions, or doing something like warehouse raids where you could be on concrete. There's a lot of industrial liquids you may come in contact with. So you can see it's a pretty wide gamut of flooring conditions, footing conditions, as well as the substances you can find in these interesting locations. In addition to that, we have weather. So again, we've all been outside, hopefully, and so it could be a bright sunny day, it could be extremely cold, wet, snowy, icy, raining. So that's why Salomon offers a variety of models within their Forces line to meet all these different requirements. Now, the other half of this is what you do with your life. Hopefully awesome and exciting things, but within that awesome, exciting life that you're leading, what do you actually encounter on a day-to-day basis for personal life, your work, all that kind of jazz? Now, I can't answer that question for you. Only you know that. So I will let you decide, well, this is my mission set or mission parameters, and then what boots best fit that. So let's dig into each one of these boots and talk about what they're made for. So let's talk about, really briefly, an overview on each one of these boots. So over here, we've got the Suisponte Mark IIIs. These are an exclusive collaboration between Salomon and US Elite Gear. This is the Gtx Forces Mid or Mid Gtx Forces. This is sort of their everyday driver model, and these are the Ian boot. These are specifically made for with some sole stuff in mind. And then these are my OG original Forces boots when they first were released by Salomon. As you can see, they're well loved. So over here, the Suasponte Mark IIIs, or the Mark III for short. So these are actually built off of the EN boot and chassis, but they also have some TAA and ISO compliance. Won't dig more into that. If you want to look into it, you can. They were built specifically for some various government purchasing requirements. Like I said, they're built off the EN boot, so they do have the anti-puncture and anti-slip when you're encountering a very oily surface or oily materials into the boot. All of these are running Salomon's 3D chassis system, which is the sole and lower boot part of the design. They are running the quick on and off barrel locks, just like all these boots. And again, they come in an exclusive color, which is neat. And they have a couple of different materials in the upper part of the boot, and they are Gore-Tex. Now, moving over, the Gtx Forces Mids. Again, these are sort of your daily drivers. These are the base model for Salomon Forces boots. They are Gore-Tex. They have the 3D chassis system of the sole. They don't have the specific pattern design for anti-slip. They're not necessarily anti-puncture. They are waterproof, as long as, of course, it doesn't go over the top of the boot. And these are going to be your really hard use, rugged style of boot. Like I said before, these are my OG sort of original Forces boots. I have done, man, a lot of miles in these things. As you can see, some design improvements actually between the stitching and materials that they use in the older boots versus the newer. That's that way these things started to open up a little bit. But these are 6 or 7 years old now. I've been wearing them a lot. These are amazing boots. And one thing I will notice is the boot got a little bit heavier between the older model and the newer ones, and that's because they did find that with really hard use, these started to wear a little bit faster than Salomon wanted. Now, finally, moving on to the Ian boot. This is a very purpose-built boot for a very specific mission. Again, this is going to be something more like VBSS or VBSS or shipboarding, going in heavy industrial areas, that kind of thing, where the 3D chassis, the anti-slip, anti-puncture is going to be very important, especially if you're working with different kinds of people who may have sharp, pointy objects that you don't want in your foot, or you don't want to slip and fall into unknown things. It's a bad day. Again, they are not necessarily Gore-Tex, so if you have a few inches of liquid or something, your foot's going to stay dry, but these are not made necessarily for the hard outdoors, maybe mountain use that the Gtx Mids are. These are definitely, like I said, a purpose-built boot with some specific corrosion resistance, the very specific sole system, all that kind of jazz for the Ian boot. And if you want more information on all these boots, we have other videos on the YouTube channel about each kind of boot individually, a deep dive into it. Like I said, today what we're talking about is who needs this and who doesn't. Now, in my estimation, and I assume that you're interested in my opinion because you're watching this video, you are going to need these boots if you love and care about your feet. Remember, a fact of life is where you go is where your feet take you. So you want to make sure you're taking care of those things, right? That's from an overall health and diet standpoint, that's from an exercise and fitness standpoint, and that's from what you put on your feet. If you are freezing, if you're wet, if you're just dogs are barking, you've been walking all day, you can really improve your life by having a good sole, a good boot, and keeping your feet happy and healthy. That's really ultimately what these boots really do. That's why I have been wearing them exclusively since pretty much they were released. They're not the cheapest boot out there. They're also not super expensive. However, they really fit what I've found to be a good balance for what I do in my life. So for media production, for training, or for everyday sort of the activities that I have as a father, this boot helps me out. Whether I'm starting a day, we happen to live on the East Coast, where it's 29 degrees and rainy, and by the afternoon it can be sunny and 60, these boots are going to keep me where I need to be. They're going to let my feet breathe if they need to be. If I'm encountering some mild wetness, something like that, they're going to keep my feet super dry. They're fairly quick drying if you don't have the Gore-Tex models, because if I slip in a river or a deep puddle or something, my feet are going to get wet and then dry again. If I'm running into maybe the grocery store before I go pick up the kids and my boots are super wet, maybe I walk through a parking lot and got some oil on them, the soles are really going to help me out here on the Ian, not bust it in the supermarket. It's not a great look. But also, if I need to go ahead and hop out of the car, get into a field, do some work out there, and trust that my boots are going to take care of my feet, maintain some good grip. That's really what these are made for. They're such a holistic all-around boot that I've really come to appreciate them. It's why, like I said, I've been running them exclusively since the Forces line came out. So hopefully I've helped answer the question, who needs this, who doesn't? If you're just cruising around in a predominantly urban environment all the time, there's probably another shoe out there that's going to be better suited for you, maybe even more cost effective. You're going to meet your budget. You know that, I don't. But if you have a more broad spectrum of environments and activities that you take on every day, especially if you will work in the law enforcement or military space, I think these boots should definitely be at the top of your list for consideration for, again, keeping your feet happy, healthy, and getting you where you need to go. All right, guys, thank you so much for watching. You got any comments or questions, put them down below. Hit up US League Gear on any of their social media. Remember, you're going to go where your feet take you, so take care of your feet. Thanks again for watching. Train hard, live free. See you next time.